Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp Weekly. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a very simple app not using the MVVM design pattern. And I will walk you through that what will be my different choices and why didn't I use MVVM design pattern and why for most of the apps you will always kind of hit brick wall or you will end up doing more work if you're using MVVM design pattern in SwiftUI. All right. If you want to read more about it or watch a video, I actually published a video stop using MVVM with SwiftUI, and I will have a link in the description that you can check it out. Now, this will be a very simple app because I don't want to create something complicated from the start, and eventually we will get to some more complicated stuff. One of the things that we need to understand about SwiftUI is how it is different from other frameworks that have been using MVVM. One of those frameworks is WPF, Windows Presentation Foundation. This is from Microsoft and it's used to create Windows applications. This is one of the early frameworks where I started using MVVM design pattern successfully. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at how WPF applications using MVVM design pattern. In WPF applications, we have something called a XAML file. The XAML file is basically the interface file where you will create the interface. Then we have a C# file which will create the view model, which is right there. We created a view model over here because we want to bind it and get the values from the interface file, which is a completely separate file, into the view model. And the binding is right over here. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. And isn't that exactly what we are doing in SwiftUI? Well, SwiftUI views are different. They're not just views. I know that they are called views right there, but they're not just views. They are views as well as view models. So if you see this portion, the body, whatever it's returning, that is a view, meaning that is something that will be displayed on the screen. But if you see over here, the state and the binding and environment object, whatever state you want to use, that is the binding. That is same as the binding that we were doing over there, right? But in WPF, we ended up with a new or a brand new customer view model because in the XAML file is not like a SwiftUI view. It doesn't have the state and it doesn't have binding and all that stuff. It needs to send the binding to a concrete class, which is customer view model. But on the right side, if you look at our actual view that contains a view stack or a vertical stack, which is the view, which contains of the text field, but it also contains the binding because the view itself knows how to do the binding, unlike the WPF. So in other words, this is already a view model and a view. Well, actually the body, whatever it returns, becomes a view or becomes displayed on the screen, but add customer screen is already have the capabilities of a view model, so we don't need to create a add customer view model for anything because it has all those capabilities. So now let's go ahead and create a very simple app using our new approach. We're going to be building an application which is going to get the coffee orders from some sort of a service, network service, and it is going to display it on the screen. Keeping in mind, and that's the important part, that our view is not only a view, but it is also a view model because it does have those binding capabilities. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Well, the first thing we need to do is to construct a model. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new group. I will call it models. Now, in the previous video, I called this DTO or models. Actually, since we are saying that the content view or the view itself is a view and a view model, then this is the business model. In the previous video, I'm calling it DTO. You can call it DTO if you're dependent on the server and the server is the one who is making all the decisions. But since, in this case, I guess the main application or the main domain, the logical part of it, the business layer, would mostly be on the server. But you can also make sure that the models, apart from getting the data or binding the data from the server, they can also contain some business logic if it has to. If you don't want to, or if you want to make your models lean, then you may have to create some local domain services. All right. Okay, so what do we need? Well, we need a model that will represent our coffee order. So let me go ahead and add a model. There we go. Coffee order. If you want to consider this as a business model, that's fine with me. That's fine. Because we have already established that the view is view and the view model. Then the model is the business model. That's fine. All right. But most of your business in a client-server app will be on the server side. Let's go ahead and create our coffee order. There we go. And if you want to keep your, once again, if you want to keep your models, which I'm creating right now, really nice and lean, then you can. You just have to create some sort of a local service which is going to be having all the business logic. All right, so there we go. We have created our coffee order. Coffee order will consist of different properties like name, coffee name, and all that stuff. So I'm just going to add that. You can see the coffee size over here is a enum. So we can go ahead and actually use that. You can create a different file for enum, but I'm just going to put it right there. Okay. Next up, we need to create a service, a network service, which is going to be getting the data from some sort of a URL. I already have a URL, and it will display it on the screen. So let's go ahead and add that. I will call it web service. You can call it network service. Doesn't matter. Here we go. Class web service, which was an observable object. What we will do is fetch the data and put it in the environment object. And the reason that I'm putting it in the environment object, that is because I want it to be a single source of truth. Whenever we change that environment object, all the views that are dependent on that will refresh. In this particular application, it won't really make that much sense because it's just a single view application. Okay, next we will go ahead and create a publish property which will contain the coffee orders. And we're going to go ahead and create our place order function. This is my own server, you can see, so I'm just using that. When the server actually, well, no, that's the placing for order, sorry. I need to do a, we'll get to that, don't worry about it. We need to get the orders, right, if there are any orders. So we get the orders, we decode it, and then we assign it on the main thread, coffee orders. Great, that's pretty cool. In order to make sure that the web service is added as an environment object, I need to go back to the Coffee app and then simply inject it. Environment object as the web service. All right. And that's it. This means that once we eventually call populate coffee orders, it's going to hopefully fetch the orders, set the coffee orders, and now whoever is interested in the coffee orders, they will automatically refresh. Now we can go back to the content view, which is a view, but also a view model. All right, that's the important part. So if you have any validation stuff that you want to do, you will do it right over here, and I'll show you. We'll get access to the environment object. Now, if you were using MVVM approach, you can still get access to the environment object, but it's a little bit of a headache because you need to pass it as a dependency injection. And then when you pass it as a dependency injection, it gets confusing that who is holding the single source of truth. So environment object is kind of like a redux in React, right? When we are using React or even Flutter or any other framework, redux is independent. So it can be used with anything, but it is a global state. Okay. So we get the web service. Let's go ahead and try to display a list web service dot coffee orders. We get the coffee order, the model objects, order in, and let's just go ahead and try to display, not sure what happened over here. Probably I have to inject it over here. I think that might be, that's what is complaining. The preview is crashing, but there we go. Hopefully that will not crash. Order dot name. Let's just see that if we can display the name. All right. And since I'm using a glitch-free account, it might take a little bit of time to fetch some stuff, and maybe there is actually no coffee orders. Let's go ahead and check out that if we have a coffee order or not. I'm going to go to that particular service in a URL, and we will have to try to see if there is any coffee order or not. Well, there is a coffee order, so we should have seen John Doe. Maybe that is a default coffee order, but at least we should see that. All right. Okay, well, the reason that we don't see it is because we haven't called our function, which is the populate coffee order. So let's go ahead and do that. It's an async function. Oops, it's an async function, so I'm just going to call it using task await web service dot populate coffee orders. And since it's a throwable function, we're just going to use try. And there we go. Our coffee order is populated. Okay, let's stop over here and see what we have done. Now, the first thing when you see this code is, hold on a second. Did you just expose your domain layer, your business layer to the view? Nope. What did I say when we started the actual video? A view is not only a view, but a view model. So as far as I can tell, I'm inside a view which also acts like a view model. Unlike WPF, where you actually have to create a concrete view model, I'm just using a view as a view because it returns this as a view and a view model. And that will make your life much easier. If I want any logic or anything, well, I can go ahead and do it over here. Or I can create a local domain service if you want to make it cleaner. We don't really have any logic right now, so that's why it appears all fine. All right, so stop right here, take a pause, and go back 30 seconds and play it again. Because I mentioned it again, a view in your SwiftUI is not only a view, but it also acts like a view model. It's a combination of these things. All right, okay. So we are getting the name, which we can display. I think it would be a nice idea for us to, let's see, create a coffee order cell view, and you can create it in a different file. I'm just going to add it right here and start using the coffee order cell view, which is hopefully going to display the coffee order. So coffee order cell view, and pass in the order. There we go. Medium coffee, that's what I want. Ordered for John Doe hot coffee. Looks like it's working fine. All right. Okay, next thing. We want to add a coffee order. We want to give the ability for the user to add a coffee order. And in order to go to the add screen, we first have to add the navigation bar. So since I'm using iOS 16, I'm just going to wrap it up with the navigation stack. There we go. And now I can probably go ahead and add like a toolbar or something. So let me just copy that code because I just need to add a toolbar somewhere. And after task, where's the task? Oh, I'm in the wrong one. There we go. So I'm just going to add it right there. And we don't have its presented. Let's go ahead and add that also, which is going to present a modal sheet. Let's go ahead and build it. Not sure why it's wrong now. Did I mess up something? I pretty much messed up something. All right. Let's remove the toolbar for now. All right, definitely the toolbar, I think I didn't do it correctly. Hopefully now. All right, let's go ahead and build it again. And we got the add order. Great. Once we have the add order, we wanted to open up a sheet which will display the add coffee order view or add coffee order screen. There is no such thing as add coffee order, so let's go ahead and add that, which will be a SwiftUI view. But again, the view is also the view model. Add coffee order view. And this is our add coffee order view. It doesn't really have much, so we need to create the interface. Let's go ahead and create some properties so that we can get all the stuff that we need. There we go. All the bindings. Remember those bindings in WPF? You had to create a separate view model. Well, bindings are available right inside the view, and that's why the view is acting like a view and the view model, and we can just use it right there. Okay. Next, we will go and create some sort of a form so that the user can enter the text field. Maybe they can pick the picker style and enter the total and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and add that. Nothing new over here. This is our view. Let's go ahead and also add a button. And this button will be used to, this will be action button. This will be used to place an order. And we will say place order. If you want to put it in the middle, I can just go ahead and set the frame for the maximum width to be infinity. And now the button is in the center. When you click on the button, now we can perform validation. Since the view is also the view model, we can perform our validation right here. I mean, it's not really a complicated validation. We just want to check that if the person is entering the name, the coffee name, and the person is entering the total. That's it. We can create either a function or a particular property which is valid right inside the view, right there. That's fine. I mean, if you want to create a validation layer or validation engine, you can do that, but you don't really need to. There we go. And now we can check if it is valid, then place order, else, well, display error message. Place order. Well, we have to create a function called place order. Oops, let's go ahead and create a place order function. It will be a private function. It will be called place order. And we will place the order. There we go. After placing the order, and if the order is successful, we will also dismiss it using the environment. There we go. The web service does not have anything called place order. So let's go ahead and do that. Now over here you can see that if you don't provide the total, or if the total is not working correctly, then we just pick the 0. Obviously this is wrong. You don't really want to give free coffee, right? Or enter 0 as coffee, but you can, change these things. All right. Okay. Let's go to web service, and we will add the place order function, which is going to communicate with our web service, like the API, and is actually going to place the order. So let me go ahead and add that particular function. There we go. It will return you some sort of a response. When the order is saved, we are going to get a saved order response. Over here you can use dictionaries if you want to, but I created a separate saved order response model, which is like a response model. It's not really a business object that we can use. So I'm just going to call it saved order response. Okay, let's go back. Let's go and build it. And web service, where is that coming from, right? Well, web service is a single source of truth that we have already added in our environment object, so we should be able to get that. Let's go ahead and add that using the environment object. There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and try to build it. Now, one of the cool things that's going to happen is that once we place the order, let's go ahead and place the order, place order. Once we place the order, let's go to web service, we can populate it automatically. And since we have a single source of truth, which is the web service, it will automatically refresh our main screen. Okay, let's go ahead and run it. And once it runs, we can try to see how it looks like. We can try to place an order. Before launching the simulator, we also need to make sure that we have the navigation stack in iOS 16. If you're using iOS 16 setup, if you're using below iOS 16, that will be navigation view. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, looks good. I'm going to place an order. Let's say order for me, coffee name, not Adam, I'm Azam. There we go. And I would say a Turkish coffee would be good. A medium size is fine. I'm not sure the price, but let's say $4.50 and place an order. And there we go. Pretty cool. Everything works. All right. Now, although this was a simple example, it does show you a couple of different things. It does show you that the view itself is the view model also in SwiftUI. Now, if you create another view model on top of the add coffee order view, it will still work. I mean, isn't that what we have been doing for the last 3-4 years? But it will still work, but it's not really needed in most cases. Now, there might be a case, and I will discuss that later on, where we will need it. And one of those cases can be if you are using Location Manager, or what is it called, CL Location Manager, CL Location, to get a particular location like annotation. And that particular object is very, very heavy, right? I mean, the annotation object or NK annotation or NK, whatever that's called, you're getting, it contains a lot of properties. You may not want to use that. You may need to create a model that is kind of like a little bit more flatter. And that is a perfect case to use that MVVM pattern to create a pattern, create some sort of a view model that you can supply to the screen. But creating MVVM just for the sake of MVVM, creating MVVM for every single screen, I don't think that is absolutely necessary at all. I think it just adds another layer which doesn't really do anything. As I have already shown you over here, all the validation, client-side validation you have done, you can just do it right there in your view, which again, for the 100th time, your view in SwiftUI is also the view model. All right, and I've given you examples of WPF and SwiftUI that how things were different and why WPF created a view model. Why? Because in the actual view, the XAML file, they don't have capability of capturing this data. It needs to go somewhere, right? This is just a text box or a text block, whatever you want to call it. And that's somewhere it will go, will be the view model. But in SwiftUI, whenever you type something, it immediately goes to where it does in a state. What is this pattern called, the one that I'm using? I don't know the name of the pattern. You can call it kind of like an observable state pattern or something like that. I don't know if it has a name. All right. But I really like it. I've just started doing it, so obviously it will check out when I start creating some much bigger applications. But with MVVM, I always thought that I was just fighting. I was just fighting against SwiftUI. And this pattern where your view is not only a view, but it's also a view model, makes things much simpler. We can easily access our environment object, as you have seen, which provides you the single source of truth. And that is pretty much it. In the future videos, I will look at this pattern more and we will make a little bit more complicated apps. But hopefully you have enjoyed this. Thank you so much. If you have enjoyed this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out my courses on Udemy. I have a lot of courses on augmented reality, SwiftUI, Combined, Swift Language, RX Swift, Cookbook, Core Data, and much, much more. Right now, actually, there's a sale going on, and that sale will last only a couple of days. If you use the uppercase code, which is called Summer 2022, you will get the courses at a very discounted price. All the links to the courses is right there in the description. Make sure to use the code Summer 2022 to get the best discount available, which will only last for a couple of days. So don't wait too long. Thank you so much for your continuous support.